So the bloodletting on the stock market seems like it just won't end. Day by day, watching stocks collapse, then rise, then collapse can be quite alarming, particularly for new or younger investors. Heck, for older investors too. Particularly if you're close to retirement age. The question of should I sell and cut my losses, or hold all my positions until this is all over, or go hide in a cave becomes really hard as companies that you've sunk your life savings into have begun to approach worthlessness. Well, I have good news for you. Well, and bad news. I'll start with the bad news first. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And it's probably going to take a while for it to get better, as a matter of fact. The good news is, it is in fact going to get better. And if you hold firm and don't flinch in this international economic game of chicken, when the markets inevitably rise again, you'll be glad you held your positions. You'll be glad you held pat. However, what if you're the person who loves to live on the edge? Who loves danger at every turn, who risks it all and wins? If that's the case, this video is for you. We're going to talk about investments that you should buy during this market downturn, coming up on BTB Fusion. So what's up, you guys? You're watching BTB Fusion, where it's our mission to inspire you to take imperfect action on your finances and business through the power of technology. Help us in that mission by pounding that like button and dropping us a comment if you like what we have to say, and especially if you don't like what we have to say. We're not perfect here, and we appreciate the input from our viewers to help us improve and deliver the content that's needed. So downturns in the markets happen. They've been part of the history of economics since the dawn of man. They come around for different reasons and at different times, and to different market sectors, or to the whole market in general. But they do occur. Sometimes you just see 7 years of plenty, and then you have 7 years of famine. The question then becomes, if you're a bold and prepared individual, what investments should you get into during this phase of famine, as it were? Well, first things first. Like I mentioned, you really need to be prepared for this phase in the market cycle, i.e., during the years of plenty, you should be saving. So we're in turbulent markets right now. So it's a little bit of a moot point to say,
save up for bad times.
I get it, and I'll get into that in a second. But I'm starting to sound like a broken record to a certain degree. When it comes time to be prepared for downturns, having cash on hand is rule numero uno. That's Espanol for rule number 1, for those of you that don't know. I like to think of this as a plan of action that anyone can take at any point in an economic cycle and begin to prepare for the next economic cycle. I call it the wealth creation order of operations, or WCOO for short. I know what you're thinking. That is literally the world's worst acronym. I had the marketing guys working on it. It's basically 4 simple steps that you would take. Step number 1, get a skill. Step number 2, become the best at that skill. Step number 3, get an emergency fund. Step number 4, invest the rest. That leads me to the first thing you should invest in a downturn, a skill. Even if you have some significant coin at your disposal right now, it never hurts to invest into more education. At the very least, education into what you should invest in next, or even what to not do when the market gets rough. For the rest of us peons, investing in a skill will significantly improve your current income and your ability to save and invest. I say all that to say that investments don't have to be just of a monetary nature. It will most likely be most impactful if you invest your time and your mental energy. This brings me to a little bit of a sidebar. A lot of people mistake what the value proposition of college truly is. The value proposition is about taking the time when you have the time, when you're young and energetic, to apply yourself and getting a deep understanding of a subject that can provide lots of value to people with lots of cash. It's really about the time spent exercising your mental faculties, understanding concepts that are new and unfamiliar to you, mastering them, and expanding your capacity to learn and comprehend tough subjects. Whenever someone asks me, how is it that I became such a good software engineer? Not to toot my own horn, of course, but I'm pretty good. I tell them it was about the time I spent going over and over individual problems and working to try and solve them. Problems that can be broken down into easier problems to solve. And really just practicing to do that. When you're in that groove, eventually it becomes second nature to you. And you make it look easy. And that's when the big bucks roll in. Now again, it doesn't have to be in a STEM field. Some people, myself included, would say that sales is probably the toughest skill to master. It involves engaging with real people, overcoming objections, helping people get the products and services that they really want and need at a reasonable price. The same can be said of advertising. I'm sure you're aware that online advertising and advertising on various platforms is all the rage. TikTok is currently blowing up, and is apparently the place to be to practice your craft trying to sell stuff. But marketing requires zero STEM skills, very few. Just the ability to know what customers want and how to get it in front of them to sell it to them. A subset of advertising is copywriting. Dan Locke, famous Canadian, is famous for turning his copywriting skills into $1 million empire via advertising online. Next thing to invest in, continued education. It's not enough to be a novice with your skills. You need to attain skills and be proficient at them at a high level. And that, my friends, is an ongoing battle. In today's world, all fields change very quickly, and you need to adapt and adjust so you don't get left behind. A lot of people feel as though that's kind of overwhelming. When I tell people this, a lot of them respond to me and say that I just want to learn something once and then do it for the rest of my life. Continuous learning doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's really just the way you're framing it in your mind. The truth is, everything is constantly changing all around you all the time, and you always constantly adjust to new information. Whether it's the weather changing from cold to warm based on seasons, to the stock market changing from bull to bear based on economic conditions, even to things like places you like to go based on whether or not they're open or closed, or maybe a new restaurant or something is opening up, and hey, let's go check it out. Conditions are always changing on the ground, and you're always learning about them and trying different ways to take advantage of them. That applies to your education and your skills as well. You always need to follow the latest trends in your chosen field and try and take classes now and then. On new techniques in your field. And don't just stop there. Try and apply them to your day-to-day life. This gives you two distinct advantages. You'll stay ahead of the trends and be a thought leader among your community of practitioners, someone who is able to command top dollar, or Bitcoin, for their services. Also, you might really come across a technique or business model that will really rocket you into the stratosphere of entrepreneurs. You might discover the next great technique on delivering targeted ads to the right customer, or maybe you'll come up with the right next killer app idea, or be involved in the next popular product launch. Perhaps techniques you learn coding can be applied to the next big startup, and you'll be sought after for your expertise in the new and niche field that you've just studied. You just never know. So continued education is extremely important in times of uncertainty. And it doesn't have to be going back to college or going back to a formal school. You can take classes from places like Udemy, Skillshare, or even just YouTube videos online to help you continue your education. But it's always important to continue it. And apply it to your current craft. Next up, a high interest banking account. When the stock market and economy in general is falling down around your ears, it's probably a good idea to have an FDIC insured bank account with a reputable banking firm. Leaving your money in cash is generally not the best decision to make, particularly if you're not saving up for a big purchase like a house or a car or things like that. But if you're saving up for things such as, let's say, an emergency fund or any of the things above, then having a bank account with a rate that beats or meets the rate of inflation is an absolute must. Ally Bank, Marcus by Goldman, PNC Bank. If you live in a state without a bank branch, all have savings accounts with competitive rates that meet or are close to the national inflation rate. The rub is that they're based off of interest rates set by the Federal Reserve, with pressure on the Federal Reserve to push those rates lower due to the recent downturn in economic fortunes of the United States. Then the return rates on those accounts are likely to move lower as well. Still, having your money in an FDIC insured bank account is probably the safest place to put it right now. Number 4, investing in the market. Now I know what you're thinking. Are you nuts? Have you seen the stock market? And even with a large positive swings up and down, it's bound to be very turbulent and volatile. So I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines and wait it out. Now that's a common refrain from many investors, and honestly, it's not the worst perspective to have. The problem is, it might be the wrong attitude to have in this time and place. To be a good investor, you have to invest when prices are low and sell when they become high. In other words, you need to monetize fear and capitalize on greed. If you do it the other way around, get in when the market is at an all-time high and then sell whenever it goes to low lows, then you're setting yourself up for investment failure and to really do the opposite of what a good investor does. Now that's not to say you should just pick up any stock or index fund or ETF. Nope. Remember what I said earlier about continuing your education. It's at this time you want to research quality investments that will do well for the long term. And if you don't have the time to do the research and pick out all the gems from a high quality stock, purchase a broad index fund instead, with as low fees as possible. Doing so will allow you to be in the market without having to pick a winner out of the thousands of available stocks. It will also give you instant diversity in your investment portfolio. Now that said, the market is set to be quite volatile for at least the next 9 months or so. So this is going to be a bumpy ride. Just keep consistently investing over this period, more or less ignoring the news on the market ups and downs. And this time next year, or perhaps an even longer time frame, the market will be back to normalcy, slowly yet steadily picking up steam. The last thing I think you should invest in is a subscription to a quality business, technology, and personal finance channel on YouTube. Luckily for you, I know just the one. That would be BTP Fusion. That's right, press the subscribe button and notification bell so you get all the latest and greatest videos when they drop. And don't forget to like this video if you liked this video, and be sure to drop a comment on the investments you'll be picking up during this turbulent time. And don't forget, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. Take action on your finances and business using the power of technology, and we'll see you next time. Peace.